Emma's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the grimy bar counter, her knuckles white with desperation. The manager's face was inches from hers, his breath reeking of whiskey and rage. "Please stop," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks, but her voice was lost in the chaos of the crowded downtown bar. His hand rose again and she flinched, closing her eyes against what was coming. But the blow never landed. The entire bar fell silent. The kind of silence that only comes when death walks into a room. Emma's eyes flew open. The manager had frozen mid-motion, his face drained of all color, staring at something, someone behind her. She felt the presence before she saw him. A wall of controlled violence, expensive cologne mixing with the scent of leather and power. "Touch her," a voice like gravel and silk commanded from behind her back, "and you won't have hands to regret it with." Emma's heart stopped. She knew that voice. Everyone in the city knew that voice, even if they'd never heard it in person. Adrian Russo, the name whispered in fear across every borough, the man who controlled everything from the docks to City Hall, and he was standing directly behind her. This is just the beginning of Emma's story, and what happens next will change her life forever. If you want to discover how she ended up in this moment, and what Adrian Russo does next, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more stories like this to life. 24 hours earlier, Emma Carter's biggest worry had been making rent. She rushed through the narrow streets of Brooklyn, her worn sneakers splashing through puddles left by the morning rain. The strap of her bag dug into her shoulder, weighted down by textbooks she studied between shifts. NYU nursing program, her ticket out of this life, if she could just hold on long enough to finish. The morning shift at Sacred Heart Hospital ended at 2 p.m. She had exactly 18 minutes to get across town to her second job at Russo's Bistro, an upscale Italian restaurant in Manhattan that catered to people who spent more on one meal than she made in a month. Emma made it with 3 minutes to spare, bursting through the employee entrance and tying her black apron around her waist. Her fingers worked automatically, muscle memory from 2 years of serving entitled customers who never looked twice at the girl bringing their food. "Table 7 now," barked Christine, the floor manager, not bothering with pleasantries. "VIP section." Emma's stomach tightened. VIP section meant high-pressure tables, businessmen, politicians, people who could get her fired for the smallest mistake. She grabbed her order pad and pushed through the heavy velvet curtain that separated the common dining area from the exclusive section. The atmosphere changed instantly. Quieter, more refined. The lighting was dimmer, more intimate. Every table was occupied by men in suits that cost more than her car, if she had a car. Table 7 sat in the back corner, the most private spot in the restaurant. 6 men occupied it, all of them radiating the kind of confidence that came with power and money, but Emma's eyes were drawn to the man at the head of the table like a magnet, Adrian Russo. She'd seen his picture in newspapers, always in the society pages rather than the crime section. His lawyers were too good for that, but photographs didn't capture the reality of him. Late 30s, with dark hair that was just slightly too long to be completely proper, a jawline that could cut glass, and eyes so dark they appeared black in the restaurant's low lighting. A precisely trimmed beard framed his face, and she could see the edge of an intricate tattoo crawling up his neck, disappearing beneath his white collar. He wore his wealth like a weapon. The suit was Italian, probably custom-made. His watch caught the light, Patek Philippe, if she had to guess. Everything about him screamed danger wrapped in sophistication. Emma approached the table on legs that suddenly felt unsteady. "Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Emma, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you off with drinks?" 5 of the men barely glanced at her, already discussing something in low voices. But Adrian Russo looked up, and the full force of his attention hit her like a physical thing. His eyes swept over her face, and for a moment, just a moment, something flickered in their depths. Recognition, curiosity. It was gone before she could identify it. "Brunello di Montalcino," he said, his voice smooth and commanding. "The 2015. Bring the bottle." Emma scribbled the order, grateful her hand didn't shake. "Of course. And for the rest of the gentlemen?" As she took the remaining orders, she became acutely aware that Adrian's gaze never left her. It wasn't predatory or uncomfortable. It was something else, something that made her skin tingle and her heart race in a way she absolutely could not afford. She escaped to the wine cellar, pressing her back against the cool stone wall and taking deep breaths. "Get it together, Emma. He's just another customer. A dangerous, powerful, devastatingly handsome customer who could probably have you disappeared without a trace." The thought should have frightened her. Instead, it sent an unwanted thrill down her spine. Emma retrieved the wine, a bottle that cost $800 she noted with dismay, and returned to table 7. She presented it to Adrian with the practiced grace she'd perfected over countless shifts. "Excellent choice, sir." His lips curved into something that might have been a smile. "I doubt you can tell a $800 bottle from an $80 one." It wasn't said cruelly, just matter of fact, and he was right. She couldn't. But something in his tone, the casual dismissal of her knowledge, sparked an ember of defiance she usually kept carefully buried. "You're right," she said, meeting his eyes directly for the first time. "I can't afford to learn the difference, but I can tell you that Brunello di Montalcino comes from the Sangiovese grape, grown exclusively in the hills surrounding Montalcino in Tuscany. The 2015 was an exceptional vintage year. Warm summer, perfect harvest conditions. It should have notes of cherry, leather, and tobacco." The entire table fell silent. Adrian's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, and something dangerous and intrigued sparked in their depths. "Where," he said slowly, "did a waitress from Brooklyn learn about Italian wine?" Emma's defiance crumbled, replaced by panic. She'd overstepped, drawn attention, broken the first rule of surviving in this world: never stand out. I study," she stammered. "Online, during breaks." "I'm sorry if I—" "Don't apologize." Adrian cut her off, his voice sharp but not unkind. "Open it." Her hands only shook slightly as she uncorked the bottle and poured a small amount into his glass. He swirled it, inhaled, sipped. His eyes never left her face. "Perfect," he pronounced. "Pour for everyone." Emma completed the task in silence, aware of every eye at the table now watching her with new interest. When she finished, Adrian spoke again. "What's your name?" "Emma, sir. Emma Carter." "Emma?" He tested her name on his tongue like he was tasting another expensive wine. "Bring us the tasting menu, all courses." "And Emma?" He waited until she met his eyes again. "I want you to describe each dish, in Italian." Her heart stopped. "Sir, I don't speak Italian." "Don't you?" His smile was knowing, predatory. "Then how did you pronounce Brunello di Montalcino with a perfect Tuscan accent?" She'd been caught. Emma's mind raced, searching for an escape that didn't exist. "My grandmother," she said finally, the truth tumbling out. "She was from Florence. She taught me food and wine vocabulary before she died. But I only know those words. I can't actually—" "Interesting," Adrian interrupted, leaning back in his chair. His finger traced the rim of his wineglass, the movement casual but somehow threatening. "Very interesting." Emma fled to the kitchen, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribcage. She'd done something wrong, drawn the attention of the most dangerous man in New York, and she didn't even understand what she'd done or why it mattered. The rest of the service passed in a blur. She delivered each course, described each dish with the Italian words her grandmother had lovingly taught her as a child, and felt Adrian Russo's eyes on her like a brand. When the check came, over $3,000, he added a tip that made her gasp. $2,000. More than she made in a month. As the men rose to leave, Adrian paused beside her. Up close, he was even more overwhelming, tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, broad-shouldered, radiating controlled power. "You work too hard, Emma Carter," he said quietly, for her ears alone. "3 jobs? 4? How did you—" "The shadows under your eyes, the calluses on your hands that don't come from restaurant work, the textbook corner I can see in your bag." His hand moved and she flinched instinctively. His jaw tightened. "I'm not going to hurt you." "I know," she whispered, though she didn't know anything of the sort. His hand completed its journey, pulling something from his jacket pocket. A business card, cream-colored and expensive, with only a name and phone number embossed in black. "You're wasted here," he said, pressing the card into her palm. "Call this number. I have a position available." "Mr. Russo, I can't—" "Adrian," he corrected. "And you can. You will." It wasn't a suggestion. He walked away, his men falling into formation around him like a well-oiled machine. Emma stared at the card in her hand, her mind reeling. What had just happened? That night, After her shift at the bar across town, her third job, the one Adrian had somehow known about, Emma lay in her tiny studio apartment and stared at the card on her nightstand. Calling it would be a mistake. She knew that. Adrian Russo wasn't offering her a job out of kindness. Men like him never did anything without reason, without agenda. But the money from tonight's tip would cover rent for 2 months, and the promise of a real position, something better than killing herself across 3 jobs. She reached for her phone, then stopped. Not yet. She needed to think clearly, not make decisions while exhausted and desperate. Emma closed her eyes, trying to sleep, but all she could see was Adrian's dark eyes, the way they'd looked at her like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. She didn't know it then, but her life had already changed. The moment she'd met his eyes across table 7, the moment she'd spoken Italian with her grandmother's accent, the moment she'd caught the attention of Adrian Russo, her fate had been sealed. Emma managed to avoid calling the number for 3 days. 3 days of double shifts, of aching feet and demanding customers, 3 days of the card burning a hole in her wallet, Adrian's number memorized though she'd never intended to learn it. On the 4th day, she returned to her apartment at 2 a.m. to find her landlord's eviction notice taped to her door. The timing felt like fate, or a curse. She called the number at 2:17 a.m., not thinking clearly, not caring that it was the middle of the night. A man answered on the second ring, his voice alert despite the hour. "Miss Carter," he said as if he'd been waiting. "Mr. Russo will see you at 10 a.m. A car will collect you at 9:30. How did you know?" The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone, her heart racing. She hadn't given her name, hadn't given her address, but somehow Adrian Russo already knew both. She didn't sleep. At 9:30 a.m. exactly, a black SUV with tinted windows pulled up outside her building. The driver, a man built like a tank in an expensive suit, opened the back door without a word. The drive took them out of Brooklyn, across the bridge into Manhattan, then further uptown than Emma had ever been. The buildings here weren't just expensive. They were monuments to wealth, doormen in uniforms that cost more than her monthly rent, windows that stretched from floor to ceiling, offering views of a city that belonged to the people inside them. The SUV pulled into an underground garage beneath a building that scraped the sky. Emma was ushered into a private elevator that required a key to operate. Her escort inserted it, pressed the button marked PH, and the elevator shot upwards so fast her stomach dropped. The doors opened directly into an apartment. No, not an apartment. A penthouse that occupied the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a 360-degree view of Manhattan. The furniture was minimalist and obviously designer. Everything was in shades of black, white and grey, except for occasional splashes of deep red that matched the wine they'd shared that night. "Miss Carter," Emma spun. Adrian stood in the doorway of what appeared to be an office, dressed more casually than at the restaurant. Black slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing more of the intricate tattoos that covered his forearms. Even in casual dress, he radiated power. "Mr. Russo." "Adrian," he corrected, moving toward her with the fluid grace of a predator. "Come, we have much to discuss." He led her to a seating area by the windows. Up close, in the harsh morning light, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the small scar above his left eyebrow, details that made him human instead of the untouchable figure from the restaurant. "Coffee?" he offered. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I couldn't," she admitted. "You scared me." "Good." He settled into the chair across from her, his dark eyes assessing. "Fear is healthy, it keeps you careful. But Emma, I didn't bring you here to harm you. Quite the opposite." "Then why am I here?" Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees, giving her his complete attention. "Tell me about your grandmother." The question caught her off guard. "What?" "Your grandmother. From Florence. The one who taught you Italian." Emma swallowed hard. "She died when I was 12. But before that she lived with us. She'd cook, teach me about food and wine, tell me stories about Italy. She said I had an ear for language, that I pronounced everything perfectly." Tears pricked her eyes, unexpected. She was the only family member who ever believed I could be something more. "And what do you want to be?" "A nurse," Emma said immediately. "I'm in my 2nd year at NYU. If I can just finish, I can have a real career. Help people. Not," she gestured at herself, "not spend my life serving food to people who don't see me." "I saw you," Adrian said quietly. The words hung in the air between them, Heavy with meaning Emma didn't understand. I need someone, Adrian continued, his tone shifting to business. Someone smart. Someone who can move through my world without drawing attention. Someone who understands Italian culture and can pass in high society settings with the right training. I don't understand. What kind of position? Personal assistant, he said. You'd manage my calendar, accompany me to events, handle correspondence, learn the business. His eyes locked with hers. The legal business. Emma laughed, the sound bitter. Mr. Russo, I'm not stupid. Everyone knows what you are. Do they? He stood, moved to the window, his back to her. Everyone thinks they know, but very few understand the difference between reputation and reality. Yes, I come from a family with a complicated history, but my businesses are legitimate. Restaurants, real estate, importers, export, all legal, all clean. Then why do you need me? Adrian turned back, and something in his expression made her breath catch. Vulnerability, quickly masked. Because I'm tired of being surrounded by people who fear me or want to use me. You don't want anything from me except an opportunity to survive. That's rare, valuable, and the pay, $80,000 a year to start. Plus benefits including full tuition coverage for your degree. You'd work Monday through Friday, occasional evening events. Your weekends would be yours. Emma's head spun. $80,000. She could quit all 3 jobs, focus on school, actually sleep. What's the catch? Smart girl. Adrian's lips curved. The catch is that my world is dangerous, not from me, he added quickly, seeing her expression. But I have enemies, people who would hurt anyone close to me to get to me. If you work for me, you become visible, protected, but visible. Why me? Emma whispered. You could have anyone. Because you spoke to me like a person, not a god or a monster. Because you have your grandmother's gift for language, and you don't even realize how rare that is. Because, he stopped, jaw tightening. Because I looked into your eyes at that restaurant and saw someone fighting as hard to survive as I once did. Someone who deserves better. The honesty in his voice stole her breath. This close, she could see the man beneath the reputation. Lonely, burdened, human. I'll need to think about it, Emma said, though her mind was already made up. No, you won't. Adrian pulled out his phone, typed something. Seconds later, Emma's phone buzzed. That's a deposit. First month's salary. Consider it a signing bonus. You start Monday. Emma looked at her phone and nearly dropped it. $80,000. Sitting in her account. Real. Actually real. I could take this and run, she pointed out. You could, Adrian agreed, but you won't, because you're not that kind of person, and because you're curious. About this world. About me. He stepped closer, and she caught his scent. Expensive cologne undercut with something darker, more primal. Aren't you, Emma? Yes, she whispered, unable to lie. Good. He extended his hand. Then we have a deal. Emma placed her hand in his, and the moment their skin touched, electricity shot through her. His fingers were warm, strong, slightly calloused. He held her hand a moment longer than necessary, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that felt almost tender. Marco will take you home, Adrian said, his voice rougher than before. Be ready Monday at 8 a.m. Dress professionally. We have a lot of work to do. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. As she turned to leave, Adrian called her name. Emma, one more thing. He waited until she faced him again. The eviction notice. It's been handled. You won't be bothered again. How did you... I know everything about you. His expression was unreadable. Every job, every debt, every fear. That's how I protect what's mine. And as of this moment, you're mine to protect. The possessive words should have frightened her. Instead, for the first time in years, Emma felt safe. The ride home passed in a daze. When she entered her apartment, she found the eviction notice gone, replaced by a new lease agreement with rent, reduced to half what she'd been paying. A note in bold handwriting simply read, Focus on school. AR. Emma sank onto her threadbare couch and stared at her phone, at the number that had changed everything. She'd crossed a line today, stepped into a world she didn't understand, made a deal with a man more dangerous than she could imagine. But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was the loneliness in Adrian's dark eyes, the way his hand had trembled almost imperceptibly when he touched hers. What have I gotten myself into, she wondered. She'd find out soon enough. Monday was only 2 days away. Monday morning arrived too fast and too slow all at once. Emma stood in front of her closet, staring at the limited options. Dress professionally, Adrian had said. Her most professional outfit was a black pencil skirt with a small tier she'd carefully stitched, and a white blouse she'd bleached 3 times to keep crisp. It would have to do. At 7:45 a.m., her phone buzzed. Not the SUV driver, Adrian himself. "There's a package at your door. Open it." Emma opened her door to find 3 large boxes from Saks Fifth Avenue. Inside was a complete professional wardrobe. Tailored blouses, perfectly fitted slacks, 2 designer dresses and shoes that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Everything in her exact size. Her phone buzzed again. "I know everything, remember? Including your size. Wear the navy Armani suit." Emma should have been offended by the presumption. Instead, she found herself smiling as she slipped into the most expensive clothes she'd ever worn. They fit perfectly, making her look like she belonged in Adrian's world. The SUV arrived at exactly 8 a.m. This time Marco, the driver, actually spoke. "Mr. Russo wants you to know he appreciates punctuality. You'll do well with him, Miss Carter. How long have you worked for him?" 15 years, Marco said, his eyes meeting hers in the rearview mirror. "Since he was barely older than you. He's a good man, Miss Carter. Complicated, dangerous in ways you can't imagine, but good, fair, loyal to those loyal to him. And to those who aren't?" Marco's expression darkened. "Don't find out." The penthouse felt different in daylight, less imposing somehow. Adrian waited in his office behind a massive desk of dark wood and chrome. He looked up when she entered, and something flickered in his eyes. Appreciation, desire. "Perfect," he said, standing. "You look like you belong here. The clothes are an investment. You represent me now, Emma. How you present yourself reflects on me." He moved around the desk, gestured for her to sit. "Now, let's begin your education." The next 4 hours were a blur. Adrian walked her through his schedule, his business operations, his expectations. He owned 12 restaurants across Manhattan, 3 import-export companies, 2 real estate development firms. Every business legitimate, every transaction documented and legal. "I rebuilt this family's reputation from the ground up," Adrian explained, showing her spreadsheets that proved his point. "My father, my uncles, they operated in the old ways, blood and intimidation. I convinced them there was a better path. It took years, cost me relationships, nearly cost me my life twice. But now, we're clean, powerful, untouchable by law enforcement because we're not breaking any laws." "But people still fear you," Emma observed. "Yes." Adrian's smile was cold. "Because reputation is power. I let people believe I'm what my father was. It keeps competitors wary, keeps my legitimate business partners honest. Fear is a tool, Emma. The key is knowing when to use it and when to show mercy." As afternoon approached, Adrian stood. "Come, time for lunch." He led her not to a restaurant but to a private dining room in the penthouse. A table was already set with lunch. Simple, elegant Italian food. Pasta carbonara, fresh bread, a green salad. "Are you cook?" Emma asked, surprised. "I do many things that would surprise you." Adrian pulled out her chair, a gentlemanly gesture that felt natural to him. "Sit. Eat. We have much to discuss." As they ate, Adrian asked about her studies, her goals, her life. Not probing, just genuinely interested. Emma found herself opening up in ways she never did, telling him about her mother who died when she was 16, her father who disappeared into addiction afterward, leaving her alone. "So you raised yourself," Adrian said quietly. "I survived," Emma corrected. "There's a difference." "No." His hand crossed the table, covered hers. "You did more than survive. You fought. You're fighting still. That takes courage." His touch sent heat racing through her veins. Emma looked up, met his eyes, and saw the same awareness reflected there. The attraction that had sparked at the restaurant was still there, burning brighter now that they weren't separated by the roles of customer and waitress. Adrian pulled his hand back abruptly, his jaw tight. "I should be clear about something, Emma. Whatever this is between us, this pull, we can't act on it. You work for me. The power dynamic makes anything else inappropriate." "I know," Emma whispered, though disappointment flooded through her. "But I want to," Adrian continued, his voice rough. "More than I've wanted anything in a long time. So we need rules, professional boundaries, for both our sakes." Emma nodded, trying to ignore the ache in her chest. He was right. Of course he was right, but knowing it didn't make the wanting go away. A phone rang, shattering the moment. Adrian checked the screen and his entire demeanor changed. The man across from her disappeared, replaced by something colder, harder. I need to take this. Wait here. He stepped into his office, closing the door. But the walls weren't soundproof and Emma couldn't help but overhear fragments. Adrian's voice, speaking rapid Italian, the words harsh and commanding. She caught enough to understand. A problem with a shipment, someone trying to muscle in on territory. When Adrian emerged 15 minutes later, he looked older, tired. Everything okay? Emma asked carefully. No. He ran a hand through his hair, disheveling it. The life I left behind doesn't want to stay behind. My cousin Luca, he's complicated, wants to return to the old ways, thinks I've made the family soft. Have you? I've made us smarter. Adrian's eyes blazed. Luca sees power as something you take with violence. I see it as something you build with patience and strategy. But he's gathering support among the old guard, and if he moves against me, what would happen? Adrian's laugh was bitter. War, Emma. Blood on the streets. Everything I've built destroyed, and everyone close to me. He stopped, looked at her with sudden intensity. You should know what you've walked into. The danger is real. Then teach me, Emma said firmly. How to navigate it, how to protect myself. Don't keep me in the dark. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Respect, mixed with something darker. You're not afraid? I'm terrified, Emma admitted. But I'm more afraid of going back to barely surviving. You offered me a chance at a real life. I'm not giving that up easily. Adrian crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping just inches from her. Too close. His scent overwhelmed her, his presence consuming all the air in the room. You're remarkable, he breathed. Do you know that? Adrian, I know. Boundaries. Professional distance. But he didn't move away. His hand lifted, hesitated, then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was feather light, but it burned. But Emma, if circumstances were different. They're not, Emma whispered, though it took all her willpower to say it. No, Adrian agreed, finally stepping back. They're not. The moment shattered when Marco burst through the elevator doors, his face pale. Boss, we have a problem. Luca's men were spotted in Brooklyn, near Miss Carter's building. Adrian went perfectly still, that cold, dangerous version of himself emerging fully. When? 20 minutes ago. They left before our guys could intercept. He knows about her already. Adrian's voice was deadly calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. Of course he does. He always was too smart for his own good. What does this mean? Emma asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Adrian turned to her and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. Protection, possession, promise. It means you're not going back to that apartment. You'll stay here where I can protect you. I can't just move into your penthouse. You can and you will. Adrian's tone left no room for argument. Marco, have a team retrieve Miss Carter's belongings, everything. I want her apartment cleared and the lease terminated by tonight. Adrian, this is crazy. This is necessary, he cut her off. Luca won't stop at making a point. If he thinks hurting you will get to me, he'll do it without hesitation. I won't. His jaw clenched. I won't let anyone hurt you because of me. Emma stared at him, her heart pounding. 24 hours ago she'd been a struggling waitress. Now she was caught in the middle of a Mafia power struggle, protected by a man who looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying all at once. Okay, she said finally. But Adrian, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't lie to me. Don't hide the danger. If I'm in this, I'm in it with eyes open. Adrian's expression softened. Deal. He extended his hand, and when she took it, he pulled her close, his forehead resting briefly against hers. I promise I'll keep you safe, Emma Carter, even if it costs me everything. As Marco left to follow orders, Emma and Adrian stood in the waning afternoon light, hands clasped, the city sprawling below them. Neither spoke about the line they'd just crossed, not physically but emotionally. In that moment, they'd admitted what they both knew. This was no longer just about a job. This was something far more dangerous than any Mafia war. This was 2 lonely people finding each other in the darkness and refusing to let go. Emma's belongings looked pitiful arranged in the guest room of Adrian's penthouse. 2 suitcases, 3 boxes of books, a handful of photos. Her entire life fit into 100 square feet of space that was probably worth more than she'd earn in 5 years. "It's temporary," Adrian said from the doorway, reading her expression. "Just until the situation with Luca is resolved." But they both knew it was a lie. Whatever was happening between them, this magnetic pull that grew stronger every hour they spent together, wasn't temporary. It was inevitable. The first week passed in a carefully maintained dance of professional distance. Adrian taught her his business. She learned quickly how to read contracts, manage his schedule, anticipate needs before he voiced them. They were good together, their minds working in sync in a way that surprised them both. But the nights were harder. Emma would lie in her guest room, separated from Adrian's master suite by a hallway that felt both too long and too short. She'd hear him pacing sometimes late at night, his voice low as he conducted business in Italian. Other times, she'd wake to find him in the kitchen at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, making coffee he wouldn't drink. "Nightmares?" she asked one night, joining him by the windows. "Memories," Adrian corrected. "Worse than nightmares because they're real." He glanced at her, something vulnerable in his expression. "My father died when I was 22, killed by a rival family because he couldn't let go of the old ways. I found his body. That image, it never leaves." Emma's hand found his without conscious thought. "I'm sorry. Don't be." His fingers threaded through hers, warm and solid. "It made me who I am. Taught me that violence creates nothing but more violence. That real power comes from being smarter, more patient than your enemies." "Is that what Luca is? Your enemy?" "He's my cousin. My blood." Adrian's grip tightened. "Which makes this so much harder. If I move against him, the family fractures. If I don't, he'll eventually move against me. Either way, people die. There has to be another way." Adrian looked at her then, really looked at her, and Emma saw the weight he carried. "You still believe in happy endings, don't you, after everything you've survived?" "I have to," Emma said simply. "Otherwise, what's the point?" He pulled her close then, wrapping his arms around her in a hug that was equal parts comfort and desperation. Emma's cheek pressed against his chest, hearing his heartbeat, strong, steady, real. "You make me want to believe again," Adrian whispered into her hair. "That's dangerous, Bella. Hope makes you careless." "Or brave," Emma countered. They stood like that for long moments, the city lights flickering below them, until Adrian finally released her with what seemed like physical pain. "Go to bed, Emma, before I forget all the reasons we can't do this." She went, but she didn't sleep. The next afternoon, Adrian had a business meeting that would last several hours. "Stay in the penthouse," he instructed. "Marco is downstairs. Don't answer the door for anyone. Don't leave for any reason." "I'm not a prisoner," Emma protested. "No." Adrian cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "You're something far more valuable. You're someone I—" He stopped, cleared his throat. "Just stay safe. For me." Emma nodded, ignoring the flutter in her chest at his touch, his words, his obvious concern. 2 hours later, the elevator dinged. Emma looked up from her laptop, expecting Adrian. Instead, a man she'd never seen before stepped out, tall, dark-haired, handsome in a sharp-edged way that reminded her of broken glass. "You must be Emma," he said, his Italian accent thick. "I'm Luca, Adrian's cousin." Every warning bell in Emma's head started screaming. "He's not here." "I know," Luca smiled, and it was nothing like Adrian's smile. This one was all predator, no humanity. "I came to see you. The woman who has my cousin so distracted. You need to leave." "Do I?" Luca moved further into the penthouse, examining it like he owned it. "This used to be my uncle's place, family property, but Adrian took it, just like he's taken everything else." Emma backed toward the kitchen, where she knew Adrian kept a panic button. "Your family's internal politics aren't my business." "No, but you've become Adrian's business. His weakness." Luca's eyes were cold, calculating. "Did he tell you about the old ways? How we used to handle threats?" "Stop." Emma's hand found the counter, inched toward the button. "Whatever point you're making, I'm not part of this. But you are, Cara. The moment my cousin looked at you, you became part of this. And now," Luca pulled a gun from his jacket, not pointing it at her, just holding it casually. "Now you're leverage." Emma's finger found the panic button and pressed. Hard. Luca's smile widened. "Oh, I know what you just did. Adrian's men will be here in 3 minutes, but I only need one." He raised the gun. The window behind Luca exploded inward. Adrian came through it like an avenging angel, his body slamming into Luca with the force of a freight train. They hit the floor hard, the gun skittering across the marble. Emma screamed, running for it, but Marco appeared from the elevator, grabbing her, pulling her back. "Don't look, Miss Carter, don't look!" But she couldn't look away. Adrian was a force of nature. Every punch calculated to hurt, but not kill. Every movement controlled despite the rage blazing in his eyes. He had Luca pinned in seconds, his knee on his cousin's throat. "You came into my home," Adrian growled in Italian. "Threatened what's mine. Give me one reason I shouldn't end you right here." "Because I'm family," Luca choked out. "And you don't kill family. That's your weakness, cousin." "No." Adrian leaned close, his voice deadly quiet. "My strength is knowing exactly how far to push without crossing the line. But Emma, she's not part of this world. She's innocent. And if you ever come near her again, family or not, I will make you disappear so completely that even God won't find you." He released Luca, stood, straightened his jacket. 4 more men had arrived, guns drawn. Adrian gestured to his cousin. "Get him out of my sight, and send a message to the family council. Tomorrow night. Emergency meeting. This ends now." As Luca was dragged away, Adrian turned to Emma. His knuckles were bleeding, his shirt torn, but his eyes were clear, focused on her. "Emma!" She launched herself at him, throwing her arms around his neck, burying her face in his shoulder. She was shaking, couldn't stop shaking, and Adrian's arms came around her like steel bands. "I've got you," he murmured, one hand cradling her head. "I've got you. You're safe. I promise you're safe." "He was going to shoot me," Emma gasped. "He was going to—" "But he didn't." Adrian pulled back just enough to see her face, his hands framing it. "Because I'll always come for you, always, do you understand?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face, and then, because she was alive and he was here and nothing else mattered, she kissed him. Adrian froze for a heartbeat. Then he kissed her back like a man drowning, finally finding air. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and Emma melted into him, into this moment, into everything she'd been trying to deny. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "This is a bad idea," he said, though his hands didn't release her. "The worst," Emma agreed. We shouldn't, she echoed. Neither of them moved away. "Emma," Adrian's voice was rough, raw. "If we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You become part of my world completely. The danger, the complications, all of it. I know. You could still walk away. I'd protect you, set you up somewhere safe, far from all of this." Emma pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "Is that what you want?" "No." The word was torn from him. "God help me, no. I want you here, with me. But Emma, I'm a selfish man. I'll keep you even if it's not safe, even if you deserve better. Then keep me," Emma whispered, "because I don't want better. I want you." Adrian kissed her again, slower this time, deeper, a claiming, a promise. When he swept her into his arms and carried her toward his bedroom, Emma didn't protest. She'd made her choice. For better or worse, she'd chosen this dangerous, complicated, impossible man, and she'd never been more certain of anything in her life. The family council meeting took place in a private room at Russo's flagship restaurant. Emma watched from Adrian's office via security cameras, Marco standing guard beside her. 20 men sat around a long table, Adrian at the head, Luca directly opposite him. The tension was visible even through the screen. "My cousin accuses me of making our family weak," Adrian began, his voice carrying absolute authority, "of abandoning our traditions, of choosing profits over honor." He paused, letting the words hang. "He's right." Murmurs rippled through the room. Luca smiled, sensing victory. "I have abandoned the old ways," Adrian continued. "The ways that got my father killed. The ways that kept us constantly at war, constantly looking over our shoulders, constantly vulnerable to law enforcement. I chose a different path. And in 10 years I've tripled our wealth, eliminated our legal exposure, and secured our future for generations." He stood, commanding the room. "But my cousin mistakes security for weakness. So let me be clear about what I am willing to do." Adrian's eyes locked on Luca. "Yesterday you threatened someone under my protection, someone innocent, in my home. That's not family politics. That's a declaration of war. So start one," Luca challenged. "Show everyone what you're really made of." "No." Adrian's smile was cold. Because unlike you, I think 10 steps ahead. You want the old ways? Violence and blood? I'm offering you a choice. Come work for me. Really work. Learn the legitimate business, prove you can evolve. Or take a very generous severance package and leave New York. Forever. And if I choose neither, then I call the FBI. Adrian's words dropped like a bomb. I have evidence of every illegal operation you've been running on the side. Drugs, weapons, trafficking, things I've explicitly forbidden, enough to put you away for 30 years. Luca's face went white. You wouldn't. Your family. You stopped being my family when you pulled a gun on an innocent woman. Adrian's voice was ice. I protect what's mine, Luca, always, and I eliminate threats. The only question is how you want this to end. The silence stretched. Then Luca stood, threw his napkin on the table. You've gone soft, Adrian. One day you'll regret it. Is that your answer? Luca looked around the table, reading the room. Every man there was watching Adrian with respect, even awe. Not one of them would back Luca's play. I'll take the severance, Luca said finally, defeated, but don't think this is over. It is, Adrian said quietly, because if you ever come back to New York, if you ever threaten anyone I care about again, I won't give you a choice. I'll destroy you completely. And unlike you, cousin, I have the resources to do it. Luca left without another word. The other family members congratulated Adrian on his handling of the situation, on his wisdom, on his strength. But Emma saw the truth on Adrian's face, the cost of choosing peace over blood, even when blood was what part of him wanted. When he returned to the penthouse hours later, Emma was waiting. She'd made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta the way his grandmother used to make it, according to recipes she'd found in his kitchen. Adrian stopped in the doorway, staring at the table she'd set, the candles she'd lit. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Emma said. Sit, eat. Let me take care of you for once. They ate in comfortable silence, the weight of the day settling between them. After dinner, they moved to the couch, Adrian pulling Emma against his side, her head on his shoulder. You handled it perfectly, Emma said. Gave him a way out with dignity. I gave him a way to save face while eliminating him as a threat. There's a difference. Adrian's hand stroked her hair absently. But you're right. It could have ended much worse. You protected your family, the legal business, and me. Always you, Adrian murmured. You've become the most important thing, Emma. That should terrify me. But it doesn't. It just makes everything else clear. Emma lifted her head, meeting his eyes. What do you mean? Adrian shifted, pulling something from his pocket. A small velvet box. Emma's breath caught. I know it's fast, Adrian said. I know we've barely known each other 2 weeks, but I've never been more certain of anything. He opened the box, revealing a ring, emerald-cut diamond, platinum band, absolutely stunning. Marry me, Emma. Not because you work for me, not because I'm trying to keep you safe, but because I love you. Because in 14 days you've shown me what it means to truly live, not just survive. Tears streamed down Emma's face. Adrian, I know the complications. I know my world is dangerous. I know you deserve someone simpler, safer. But Emma, I'm a selfish man, and I'm asking anyway. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, providing for you, loving you the way you deserve. Yes, Emma breathed. Yes, absolutely yes. Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger, then kissed her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. When they finally broke apart, both were crying. I love you, Emma whispered. I didn't think I could. It happened so fast. But Adrian, I love you completely. I've loved you since you pronounced Brunello di Montalcino with that perfect accent, Adrian admitted. Since you looked at me like I was just a man, not a monster or a god. You see me, Emma, the real me. That's rarer than you know. They made love that night with a tenderness that surprised them both. No urgency, no desperation. Just two people finding home in each other's arms. Afterward, as Emma traced the tattoos on Adrian's chest, he told her their meanings. His father's death date, his mother's name, the coordinates of the place he'd decided to change his life. And this? Emma touched a blank space over his heart. That's for you, Adrian said. Your name. Once we're married. So everyone knows you're written on my heart forever. Emma kissed the spot, then his jaw, then his lips. Promise me something? Anything. Promise me this is real, that it's not just proximity or danger or loneliness. Promise me we'll still choose each other when things are calm and safe and boring. Adrian rolled them so he was above her, his eyes serious. "Emma Carter, I will choose you every day for the rest of my life, in danger and safety, in chaos and calm, in poverty and wealth. You're my person, my home, my everything. That's not going to change when things get boring, though with us I doubt they ever will." Emma laughed, pulling him down for another kiss. "Good, because you're stuck with me now, Adrian Russo, for better or worse." "Definitely better," Adrian murmured against her lips. "Always better." 3 years later, Emma stood in the kitchen of their new home. Not the penthouse, but a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, with a garden and a nursery upstairs. She'd graduated from NYU with honors, Adrian attending every ceremony despite the threats that required a security detail. She worked part-time at Sacred Heart Hospital now, fulfilling her dream of helping people while still managing Adrian's legitimate business interests. The Mafia legacy was fading. Adrian had systematically converted every illegal operation into legitimate ventures, buying out or eliminating resistance with a combination of financial incentives and strategic pressure. The Russo name no longer whispered fear. It inspired respect. Emma heard the front door open, Adrian's voice calling, "I'm home! Kitchen!" She called back, smiling as their daughter Sophia came running through, dark curls bouncing, laughing as her father chased her. Adrian swept Emma into his arms, kissing her deeply despite Sophia's giggles and protests. "How are my girls?" "Perfect now," Emma said, meaning it absolutely. She looked at her life. The husband who loved her completely. The daughter they'd welcomed a year ago, the home they'd built together. It was nothing like what she'd imagined that day she'd served wine to a dangerous stranger in an upscale restaurant. It was infinitely better. "I love you," Adrian murmured, his hand resting on her stomach where their second child was growing. "Thank you for choosing me, Emma, for choosing this life." "Thank you for seeing me," Emma replied, "for looking past the waitress to the woman underneath, for being brave enough to love me." Adrian kissed her again, slower this time, deeper. Even after 3 years, the electricity between them hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown stronger, built on a foundation of trust and respect and genuine partnership. That evening, as they put Sophia to bed and retreated to their own room, Emma reflected on the journey, from poverty to prosperity, from loneliness to love, from barely surviving to truly living. "Happy?" Adrian asked, pulling her against him. "Completely," Emma said, and she was, because sometimes the most dangerous choice is the one that saves you. Sometimes the man everyone fears is the one who sees you most clearly. Sometimes love doesn't happen slowly or safely. It strikes like lightning, fast and devastating and impossible to ignore. And sometimes, just sometimes, the girl from Brooklyn gets her fairy tale ending with the king of the city. Not because he saved her, but because they saved each other. Emma and Adrian's story has reached its beautiful conclusion. If their journey touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who loves intense romance stories. New stories arrive every week, each one crafted to make you feel, believe, and hope. Until the next story, take care of your heart.